Hi, my name is Jeff Bounds, and I'm the Vice President of Client Engagement and Marketing here at the Mosaic Consulting Group. And we're super excited today to actually be doing a webinar. I mean, what a better time of year than to do a webinar to talk about some key strategies that everybody watching today can implement to be able to maximize not only how you're closing out the year, but also be able to pre-plan what you're going to do for 2024. And I know many of you that are watching this today, I'm probably going to see you here in a couple of weeks in Las Vegas at the Aspire conference. We're also going to be having a special announcement towards the end of this. So make sure you don't miss that. So make sure you watch the entire webinar, because there's going to be something that you don't want to miss when you're at the Aspire conference. So anyhow, I'm going to bring in here Jason Nickey. He is one of our top professional services leaders here. What that means is he's an expert consultant. So he's been in the HR space now for over 11 years. He's worked with hundreds of clients just like you to be able to help them get the most out of their UKG software. And what we're going to be talking about today are the 3 key strategies how you can optimize your UKG software. So before we get into that, I want to introduce Jason Nickey. So Jason, tell everybody about yourself, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the webinar today.
Hi, thanks, Jeff. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Jason. So I've been working in the WFM space now for over a decade, across industries from healthcare to retail to public sector. I've been exposed to a wide variety of clients. I do also have multiple applications underneath my belt. So I've been around for quite a while. That's my introduction, Jeff.
Yeah, he's a very modest guy. He's straight to the point. He's got a lot more horsepower than that. Got to get those, got to put my deal here on do not disturb before people start blowing me up here. So hold on one second. Okay, so here we go. So we're going to get started into those 3 key strategies. Again, the whole intention for why you bring in a partner into the ecosystem, which many people do, and just to set a baseline there for maybe those of you that are watching today that maybe you've used this before, maybe you haven't, maybe you're thinking about it. We're a full suite consulting firm for UKG. That's all that we work with, UKG only. We work on launch implementation at the front end of the situation, and then we also are very active post-live. And that's the one thing that I guess I would say today and going into this is, if you think you're going to start with the implementation or the launch and you think, I'm done, I can just move on, you're underestimating the ability of UKG and what they could do with their software, which first and foremost, I think is an amazing system. However, it's only as amazing of how you maximize that. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started here with the webinar today. And I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Jason Nickey.
Awesome. Thanks again. Let's go ahead and pull up the agenda. So as Jeff mentioned, we're going to talk about 3 things, 3 strategies to really maximize your UKG product. The first one, we're really going to be talking about the profile auto assignment tool. So this is really used for full suite customers, right? Where they're on UKG Pro HCM and they're on UKG Pro WFM. And the second 2 items, metrics and KPIs and Dataviews and Charts, really related to the WFM analytics piece, right? Where we're going to be talking about how easy it is to kind of set up and get visibility into different metrics that are really important to your organization to allow managers to do their job more effectively, or admins or regional managers. That being said, let's dive right into item number 1.
All right.
So the WFM page it lives in Pro, and for any of you that are existing UKG clients on full suite, your HR team is probably very aware of this screen. So this is really what drives what the employees get in WFM, which rules apply to them, which schedules they get, what access they have. It really determines every piece of their WFM functionality. And when Pro WFM first rolled out, this was a manual process. So setting these fields were all manual, which was, a challenge for some clients. And UKG has since rolled out a profile auto assignment tool that really looks at your demographic data in Pro, the employee data that lives on their records, and you can create rules that will automatically assign the WFM information. This, as I said, rolled out after WFM's inception. So it was late to the market, we can say, which we've seen a trend of a lot of clients never circling back to set this up, putting a lot of that burden on their HR team to manually, set this whenever they hire somebody, to ensure to circle back and have processes to manage changes so they can modify rules as needed if an employee moves across state to different locations. So again, the trend that we've really seen is, hey, this is a new tool, but we're not circling back to implement it. And there is a lot of ROI that can be associated with this. If your HR team is spending 20 minutes a day on new hires and 30 minutes a day, modifying and tracking changes when people move across the organization, this could really cut down on the amount of effort that your HR team is doing, because we can build rules that automate those assignments. That being said, can we go to the next slide?
Yeah, absolutely. And just in case you guys are watching this, we are live right now. So this is interactive. So if you want to ask questions, we will be taking questions, so you can ask them throughout the webinar, or you can wait to the end, whichever way. I usually like to ask the questions right when something comes to my head, like when he's discussing this. Maybe you knew about this, maybe you didn't. If you didn't know about it, put a 1. If you did know about it, put a 2.
Awesome. So as I mentioned, if you're familiar with the page, then you'll know that there's time profiles and direct assignment fields. So these profiles really are just bundles of WFM policies, right? What access they have, for example, is the license. Who they can access is the employee, and what features they personally get. And then you have, timekeeping, scheduling, accruals, and all the pieces that go into WFM, everything from leave to attendance to timekeeping. Direct assignment fields are a single policy. And these are you can say, the most important policies of WFM, meaning they drive exactly how they're paid, like the payroll, or which entitlements they receive, PTO, vacation. And the idea behind direct assignment fields are, if you can get 95% of the time profiles to all have similar fields, then you can override that one piece that may be different, like a payroll. So instead of having 50 profiles for 50 different payrolls that they all have access to the same pay codes, you can have one profile and a direct assignment of 50 different payrolls. So long story short, direct assignment fields really kind of act as an override to those individual policies listed in the time profiles on your left.
Now, here's something that maybe it's going to blow your mind, maybe it won't, Jason. But, I asked the question more. If you knew about this, press 1. If you didn't know about it, press 2. We got a lot of 2s. So already you're making an impact here, and already people are starting to find out new information of how they can really take this machine and get it running. So again, this is very, very helpful for us as well. So for those of you that didn't know about this before, did you find out enough information about how you're going to be able to implement this today? If you think you are going to be able to implement today, do a thumbs up. We're also going to be sharing this afterwards. And if you want to have this shared, please make sure you go, please share at the bottom. We'll make sure we get it out to you after the webinar is over.
And it may make a little bit more sense after the next slide.
Okay, cool.
One more slide on the WFM page.
All right, so let's get the suspense out of the way and go to the next slide. Boom.
So we talked about what it is you are assigning and the fact that certain fields can be overridden. Now we're going to talk about how do you assign it, or what can you use to assign those WFM policies. So the way that the tool works, for anybody that's ever worked with reference tables on integrations or cross-reference tables, it's essentially a mapping exercise, right? And we can use these fields, these drivers that live in Pro. So their org values, their location, their company, project, shift, job. I don't think I'm going to read the whole list, but you get the point. Those are all of the fields that are available listed out. There's no other additional surprise drivers yet, though UKG probably has plans to roll out additional drivers. The tool works by setting up rules and defining values, meaning if an employee lives in org value X at location Y and he's in company Z, let's give him payroll AA, for instance. And it's pretty much that simple. So you go through a process of identifying, what is it we're going to aim to assign and what drivers we need to assign those. That's the rule. And then you go through the process of filling out the value set, saying if value, if driver A equals X, then assign this. If driver A equals Y, then assign this. You can use one or all of these drivers in one rule. The rules also have priority. So if you're looking at this list and you're like, well, that can get pretty complicated if we have to use 6 drivers. Technically, you could have a couple of rules and say, hey, you know what? All of our salaried people, we're going to assign by just being salaried in rule 1, getting all of those salaried people out of the way. Now it's going to move to rule 2 and say, okay, well, now that we're down to hourly, let's look at direct reports and maybe org value 1. And you can get either more complicated or less complicated as you go. Just understand that it is priority. So it will work its way from rule 1 all the way down to however many rules you have for that driver. And the very first match it finds, it will assign that to the employee. So that is the basis of the tool. Again, there are direct assignment fields, and you can also create rules for direct assignment fields so you can automate a payroll assignment. The cool thing about direct assignment fields, or at least I think it's cool, is if you have rules assigning everything and then you need to make an exception to that rule, well, you can manually use a direct assignment field, assign them their right payroll. And as long as there's not a PAA rule assigning payroll directly, it will keep that manual edit and override what the system assigned as their timekeeping profiles payroll. So I know I said a lot of words there. Essentially, there's a lot of ways to create rules, to get them automatically assigned. There's options for exceptions when you're breaking your own rules and you don't want it to apply to a particular employee. And then there's also the added flexibility of direct assignment fields where your rules can get you 90% of the way there, but you need to manually assign a couple of exceptions to that rule.
Love that. So yes, that's a lot of information. How many of you guys are using this? 1, if you're using it, 2, if you're not. Wait for it to drop in the chat here. This will be very interesting to see who's actually leveraging this. I believe it takes a second here to get this. Okay. Got a few folks that are using this. Got to give a shout out to my buddy Juan, man. He's on all of our webinars. We appreciate you. Yeah, a lot of people see Janae on here from Mosaic. Hey, Janae. So yeah, it's I would say it's about maybe 70-30. Jason, 7% of people using it, 30 are not. Also, I want to throw a little teaser out there. Jason's been teasing me on like he might show this in like a sandbox environment. How many of you guys would like to see some of the mechanics on this live? If you would like to see it live.
So hold on one second, Jeff. This is one piece I can't show because it lives in Pro. Okay. I can show the data views and the metrics, and I apologize. We do not have a unified sandbox.
So how many of you guys want to see the data view and the metrics? If you want to see the data view and the metrics, put 7. Put 7 down there in the chat. Let's see what we get here. If we get 5 of these in the next minute, see, they're not listening. They're putting yes, but they're not putting 7. Okay, here we go. Yeah, some people are going to want to see it. Of course, they're going to want to see it. All right, so now you're on the spot, Jason. We'll have to show them this. All right, you want to go to the next slide?
Yeah, let's go. Let's move on. So okay. The next 2 slides are going to be a little bit quicker. They really go hand in hand. Another trend I've really seen is that you go through an implementation and you get your minimum viable solution implemented, right? For those of you that have been through an implementation, you've probably heard those words, minimal viable solution. And what you can do, UKG is powerful. WFM has a lot of cool analytic and reporting capabilities, specifically Dataviews, and they're not as they're not running calculations like traditional reports, but they're also really quick to put together a lot of times, and they can give your admins and your managers visibility into important metrics and KPIs. And that's what we're going to talk about briefly is metrics and KPIs. There is an actual KPI builder within WFM in application setup. It is not very complicated to get some really good baseline metrics set up, such as overtime hours or overtime costs or absentee hours or excused or unexcused absences. These are all examples, and in some cases it's as easy as just opening up the mapping category definition, that's step number 2 here, and saying which pay codes count towards overtime hours. Once you do that, you now have a metric that is for overtime hours, and these metrics can be referenced in Dataviews. So if you're really interested in seeing, hey, what's our overtime hours by location? Think of a regional manager or a district manager that is managing several locations, and he wants to know, or she wants to know, what their overtime hours are amongst these sites. You can easily track that in a metric, create a data view in a chart, drop it on their display, their homepage, and now when he signs in, he sees his top 10 overtime sites. So the steps are pretty easy. You go to the mapping category definitions, you find the metrics that you want, and you fill out the pay codes in those. Again, there's one for overtime, there's one for productive, non-productive. UKG already put a solid baseline of metrics that they've identified as important to organizations. But you can always create your own. Maybe there's not one there, or you have 10 different types of absentee time. You're really complicated, and you want to track all of these very granularly. You can always add new mapping categories and new metrics and reference those in Dataviews as well. So step 1, update the mapping categories. Step 2, enable the metrics and make sure they're referencing those right mapping categories that you just set. And 3, enable any KPIs or build any KPIs you want. Meaning, now that you have overtime hours and now that you have total hours, you can say, what's my overtime hours as a percentage of my total hours? You can build that KPI within WFM. And as soon as you do, it is now available to be referenced on any time series data view or business structure data view that you're going to build. So if you want to see overtime hours across 3 months by location, you can build a nice chart to do that and display that.
Hey, I love that. 1 second here. Hey, Shelby. Yes, we're going to share a recording of this. Make sure you give me your email so I can do that. I also see now you're in the process of implementation of WFM. And this will also be something potentially you might want to set up a call. So maybe we can help you with that as well. So just want to throw that out there. Go ahead, Jason.
Sure. And let's pop over to the next one, because if we get through it, then I can show an example of these as well. So I've been talking about Dataviews and Charts. There's a bunch of data elements, that's what I call them, within Dimensions or WFM, meaning you have things like start time, end time, pay code totals, right? All these referenceable fields on Dataviews and reports. KPIs and metrics are additional referenceable fields. And as I stated, you can create a new one. You may have shift 1 overtime versus shift 2 overtime versus shift 3 overtime. And UKG only comes with an overtime metric. It's really easy just to say, you know what? As long as they're different pay codes, I'm going to create 2 new metrics for overtime 2 and overtime 3. And now you can compare, you can see all of those on a data view, right? Or you can bring those fields in. So again, metrics, KPIs are available on data views. Charts are a piece of data views. So Once you have all the fields you want, you can now play with them to create a chart to visually represent those important pieces of information that you want to give visibility to for your management. Data views can also be given to employees, just to throw it out there. Assuming the information is valid for that employee, they can also get a data view that shows their own information. So when we're talking about overtime hours or overtime hours by job, these are also available to be given to an employee so they can see their own quickly on their dashboard. I use the example of overtime hours as a metric because it is, and then overtime hours as a percentage of total hours as a KPI because it's really a formula. You can have charts configured as I called out, like overtime by location, show the top 5 or top 10. It does only go up to 10 though. So if you're hoping for a chart of 100 lines, and we can't do that. Limit on 10, and then it groups everything else as the 11th. And the idea is I've just seen the trend that a lot of managers or a lot of companies' managers do not have access to important information at a glance, like overtime hours, to see, who's burning the midnight oil and working 20 hours of overtime, even though they're not supposed to.
A question.
So that is a good question. My understanding is I'm talking about analytics within WFM right now. So this is core functionality of Pro WFM. To get data from both, there is a application or a service called Data Hub that UKG offers. Data Hub essentially extracts all of this information out of WFM via API and is referenceable in your BI reports out of Pro, is my understanding. So it leverages your BI tool that can tap into Data Hub that has API access to your WFM information.
Very cool.
Yep.
Okay, so go to another slide, which is a little bit of a different slide. So I don't know, like you guys want me to tell you about this special announcement, or do you want me to wait a little bit? I don't know, because Jason's going to show you. But I guess before I get into the special announcement, how many of you guys are going to Aspire? If you're going to Aspire, put 5 in the chat. And you're going to find out something that nobody else on the planet knows right now that's going to happen at Aspire. But I'm not sure how many of you guys are going to Aspire. Okay, so let's see how many we have here. If it's not more than like 20. Oh, man, Juan's going. He's got an exclamation. Oh, boy, we got a lot of people. So I guess you guys do want to know about this special announcement, right? So for those of you that attended Aspire last year, we had over 1,000 people come to our booth. And last year we gave away a Louis Vuitton handbag. I don't know how many of you guys on here would be interested in a Louis Vuitton handbag, but over 1,000 people were. It was pretty cool. And we were super excited to be able to do that. So everybody was asking me, okay, like, what are you going to do this year at Aspire? What are you going to give away to, obviously, our prospects and our clients? So I'm going to give you guys something that nobody else knows right now. This is what we're giving away. We're giving away a Cartier Love necklace. It's a $4,000 necklace, right? So you're the only people right now on the planet that know about this. Now, if you know anybody else that's going to Aspire, if you want to tell them, fine. If you don't want to tell them, that's fine too. But everybody's eventually going to find out about this because we're going to launch it out tomorrow. But if you stop by our booth number is 13. I don't know what I think about booth number 13, but we're booth number 13. Stop by the booth. You could register to win this. Also, if you're following us on LinkedIn, great. If you're not following us on LinkedIn, please do that as well. But this is a great opportunity to be able to come by, meet the team at Mosaic, and put in that registration to win this beautiful necklace. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. So now I think if Jason is kind enough, he's going to do a little bit. I don't see that people that excited about this necklace. That's kind of shocking. But now Jason is going to do a little bit of a sandbox environment here for you and show you some of the things that I know you guys wanted to hear. So Jason, do you feel comfortable doing that? You see the present down at the bottom?
Yes, I do. I am taking over as easy as, let's see if it lets me choose my screen. Entire screen. Here we go. All right. So And let me know when you can see my screen.
All right, boom, there it is.
Awesome. So this is our sandbox environment. So for those of you in the HCM space, I'm not sharing personal data. This is all made up data in a sandbox. So as I called out, metrics like overtime hours or KPIs like overtime as a percentage of productive. These are examples of what you can do. So in our sandbox, we've defined what counts as overtime hours. And these are all the overtime hours that this employee has over the pay period. We also define what counts as productive time. So things like regular, overtime, holiday worked, right? Anything on the job that's being productive. So you can see a percentage of how many overtime hours as a percentage of their productive. We can also do this with total. We can do this with actual hours, all hours. You can do this with shift differentials as percentage of your work time, right? When anything that you can think of that you can define in clear-cut pay codes, you're now able to reference these all in Dataviews. And I mentioned charts. So I personally like charts. These are quick, easy way to give visibility into what employees are doing for your management, right? So they can see, for instance, their overtime hours by job. So they know which jobs are running the most overtime. Maybe this gives you insight into, whether you need to hire or not, right? Are you burning additional money, paying everybody on your all your associates overtime when maybe it's just worth hiring another one? You can do it by location, right? Anything that's on here, you can make a metric for. So you can pick which field you want to display up and what you want to display. Do we want to do it by job, by person name, by ID, by location, right? Any of these are available. One cool thing I really like about them is once your management gets used to using the tool, it is possible for them to make their own, right? To personalize their own homepage, to be able to edit it, to be able to make a chart out of a data view for the information that's important to them. So that's something that they can do all on the front end. Just if I were to hit this button, I can make a new one. And maybe I don't like line charts, maybe I don't like bar charts, maybe I like line charts. So that's one of the things I wanted to show you. And another just tidbit of a sneak peek, analytics also comes with what we call target management. And for those of you that are really on the overtime piece, you could set up target management and actually set overtime targets for various locations. So if you want to see when they're running above their, what's a goal, what's a warning, and what's needs attention, you can set various targets that maybe at 10%, this turns red. So they know they're running way too high of a percentage of overtime. And again, these just tap into your data views, but there's the additional step of setting your target OT and defining some baseline policies. But you're able to actually predict, or see as a percentage on your dashboard, and then also get notifications and other things when those target overtime thresholds are exceeded. That's it, Jeff. That's all I got to share today.
No, I love that, man. And obviously, we still have some time for some questions. So let's go ahead and open up for some questions. Obviously, Jason was kind enough to share a lot today. I certainly learned a lot. So anything you guys had to ask, this is the only time you're going to be able to ask it because we're live right now. We have Jason here and we got another 10 minutes to answer some questions. So let's start with the questions. Go ahead and put them in the chat. We'll be more than happy to answer this for you. And I notice there's a little bit of a lag time here on when the chat gets posted. Or maybe they're just super, super intuitive here and there are no questions. Are there any other, I guess, would there be three things, Jason, that you would say, with us going into the final stretch of 2023 and people looking at their organization right now and getting themselves prepared for next year? What would be the top three things that you would recommend people to either start looking at and planning or really take a really close look at of maybe trying to optimize going into 2024?
So these are probably my top three things because they're easy. So the first is definitely making sure that your PAA is set up, profile auto assignment. It's also a really good time to check in to make sure it's still working right? All of those driver fields, you may add new locations, and maybe a location is a driver for you, or you may add new jobs or org levels. So defining the process of, hey, when we add a new location or when we add new values in some of our pro fields, is it going to impact our WFM side? Not only are we building the pay rules to accommodate it, but are we updating our profile auto assignment rules so we're not putting additional manual burden on our HR team? That's often missed, right? Sometimes the mapping is missed. So it's always a good time to reevaluate some of your core functionality and your automation to ensure that you've kept it up to speed throughout the year for any new additions you've added.
Hold that thought for a second. We got some live ones.
Awesome. They are okay. So yes. Okay. So there's a couple of questions. I'm going to start with.
Let's look on the screen. Are we able to create charts and assign them as default profiles for a group of employees?
Yes, it's through your display profile. So you can create charts and you can tag them on their homepage layout, right? So the charts, what tiles go on somebody's WFM page is part of their homepage layout, which is an aspect of their display profile. And for those of you on Pro Core, that's an aspect of their employee time profile that we were talking about earlier. So employee profile has the display profile has the homepage layout. That's where which tiles are determined.
We got another one. Tell me if you can see this on the screen, Jason. Can you see that on the screen?
I can. Yeah, that's the, you can push them out. Well, I don't know what you mean by push them out like dashboards, but you can have them pre-configured and available to be seen by default on their homepage. And then you can give managers the ability to edit their own home pages. So if they don't like it, they can hide it. Or if you give them a bunch of stuff that's hidden and they want to use, they can always select to display those as well. Can we go back to the rules? Where can you create these? If they are created in core under PCF rules, can you let us know which class we should select? So they are not. So in core, they are under, I want to say it's application setup, but it may just be setup. So the little gear widget, and then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there is the workforce management section or workforce management business structure section. You open that subsection up, and then there's profile auto assignment. You open that up, and there's rules, exceptions, and change log, and a few other things. It's under rules. So first you set up the rules, then you set up the value sets.
What's going on, John? Are we going to be sharing some quick tips or how to guide with the slide deck? Again, if you put your information there, you want us to share this recording, obviously what Jason went through, you'll be receiving on there. And listen, if you are running into challenges around that, you might want to reach out to us and set up a strategy call. And it may be something we would be able to partner with your organization to be able to help you move through that. And it's one of the things a lot of the organizations do that work with us. I mean, we bring in like one of our, experts and be able to help you be able to like work through the project, provide that insight. Because again, the difference between, let's say like a Mosaic and then like your organization, and obviously there's brilliant people at all your organizations. We do this every single day, right? So we've done this with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of customers. So, I mean, Jason, I'm sure he's seen the patterns of consistency. So he can aggregate all this information and then bring this to your organization with a framework that's going to be extremely successful. So yeah, definitely reach out to us and be more than happy to try to answer that question for you.
And just to add to that real quick for the data views, just one tidbit of information is there is summary data and there is transactional data. And you're probably running into issues because those do not work well within the same data view. Can't have one field say return hours for the entire pay period and have two other fields trying to return start and end times for each day within the period. That's where you're probably running into duplicate rows with certain fields empty and other ones filled on the various rows. So when you're just building them conceptually, think whether it is transactional data or whether it's summary data, and make sure to keep those categories and entities in alignment. So you're not having time card summary and time card. That's most of where I see issues with clients building their own data views. There's not a clear-cut guide on it. That rule of thumb has helped me so much. Am I looking for summary or am I looking for transactional?
And then I gotta throw this comment up on the screen here. Yesenia said, "Oh yes." So did a light bulb just go off in your head? Did Jason just say something that opened up an area maybe you've been stuck with? I'd love to kind of know what was that impact point there that got you to say that. All right, we have 2 more minutes left. So if there's any more questions while you have Jason's a busy guy. Let's go ahead and fire out a couple more questions. If anything, it doesn't have to be even specifically around what we talked about. If you have any questions on I'm putting him on the spot right now, but if you have any questions on what's going on currently with your UKG software and you want to ask those questions, you got 2 minutes to ask whatever question you want for Mr. Nicky here. And I noticed this thing is definitely delayed on these questions. I don't know if you guys experiencing a delay when you ask these questions? Oh, Yesenia said this is extremely helpful. Well, hey, that means everything. We're super happy that this is being impactful. And again, we're going to be going to Aspire in a couple weeks. And then after that, we're going to be committed to continually bringing out these webinars to you. So we're really glad that you guys are enjoying it. I don't see any more questions coming through, but we really appreciate you jumping on. We appreciate you participating in what we're doing here at Mosaic. And again, any way that we can help you, doesn't cost you a dime to go to our website, put in an inquiry, and we'll be more than happy to have somebody reach out to you and discuss whatever you're currently challenging right now, and more importantly, help you think through it and get to the next level. So on behalf of Jason and myself, we really appreciate you jumping on the webinar today. And for most of you guys, we look forward to seeing you in a couple weeks in Las Vegas. Take care.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.